Which is better, the OnePlus Nord N20 5G or the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. Now, both of these devices were recently launched in the US within the last few months, and I'm expecting both of them to be very popular all throughout this year and then into the future. Now, to see the most up-to-date pricing and availability for these devices, definitely take a look at all the various links in the video description. But as of now, you can only get the OnePlus Nord N20 5G at T-Mobile and Metro by T-Mobile. And then the Galaxy A53 5G is also being sold at those carriers, but also at other carriers and factory unlocked as well. Now, hopefully, into the future, OnePlus will also offer the Nord N20 5G factory unlocked, but as of now, they do not. Now, these two devices do share quite a bit in common, but also have quite a few differences, and I'm looking forward to going into all of that throughout this video. Now, the first difference has to definitely be the displays of these phones. Now, the displays on both devices are very large, but at the same time, they are different in size. So with the Nord N20 5G, we have a 6.43-inch display compared to a slightly larger 6.5-inch display with the Galaxy A53 5G. Now you can see, side by side, here's how they compare. So the overall footprints of these two devices are pretty similar, but we do have larger bezels with the Nord N20 5G. Now, another difference is the type of AMOLED displays these phones are using. So with the OnePlus Nord N20 5G, we do have a standard AMOLED display running at 60 Hz compared to the Galaxy A53 5G, where we have a Super AMOLED display running at 120 Hz. So we have a much faster refresh rate here, and in general, this display does look a bit better. That being said though, I really do like the AMOLED panel that we are getting with the Nord N20 5G, and I'm definitely glad that they did go this route versus going with LCD. So with both of these phones, we have really good viewing angles, colors are awesome, and everything looks very crisp and clear. Now, the PPIs are different. So with the Nord N20 5G, we have a 409 PPI compared to a 405 PPI with the A53 5G. And then with both phones, we do have 20:9 aspect ratios. So a kind of more narrow but taller form factor, making these phones ideal for social media especially. And as far as the screen to body ratio goes, we have an 85.3% screen-to-body ratio with the Nord N20 5G compared to an 85.4% screen-to-body ratio with the A53 5G. So you can see there that there are some differences and similarities when it comes to the front panels on these phones. With the front-facing cameras, they're different in both megapixel count and placement. So with the Nord N20 5G, you can see the front camera is positioned in the upper left here, and it is 16 megapixels. Whereas with the Galaxy A53 5G, we have a 32 megapixel front-facing camera that is centered. Now, both of these devices are offered in 128 gigabytes, so that's excellent because we're getting a lot of internal storage, and these phones are also offered with microSD card expansion. So if you do end up filling up the majority of the internal storage on these phones, then at least you always can add in a microSD card to offload photos and videos, for example. And then unfortunately, neither of these two phones have wireless charging, but they do both feature in-display fingerprint sensors. So we'll try this first with the Nord N20 5G. There we go, very quick. Let's try that out one more time. So very fast. And then we'll give it a try with the Galaxy A53 5G. So very quick there, one more time. So we have very fast, accurate, and responsive fingerprint sensors built into the displays on both of these devices. And in addition to that, both of these phones are compatible with Face Unlock, so it is nice that we do have multiple methods for getting into the phones. Now, taking a look at the back of these devices, we have quite a few differences and similarities with the cameras. So with the Nord N20 5G, we have a triple camera setup compared to a quad camera setup with the Galaxy A53 5G. Now with both of these phones, we do have 64 megapixel main cameras on the rear. However, beyond that, there are quite a few differences. So with the Nord N20 5G, the other two cameras are a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera and a 2 megapixel macro camera. So unfortunately, there is no ultra wide angle camera here with the device. And then with the Galaxy A53 5G, we have a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera for portrait mode, and a 5 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. So if you really do want to have an ultra wide angle camera, then the A53 5G is the only phone of these two that does have that. Now technically, the A53 5G is meant to be a slightly higher end device compared to the Nord N20 5G, but I can definitely imagine that there's a lot of people that are specifically looking for the differences between these two devices. So I guess my point is that I'm not that surprised that we're not getting nearly as many cameras, nor as good of cameras with the Nord N20 5G compared to the A53 5G, but I still wanted to point out those differences. Now here's how things look on the camera apps on both devices. This is with the main rear cameras right now. Then from here, with the A53 5G, we can switch over to the ultra wide angle camera where we can fit a lot more content into the frame. So that is a pretty nice feature to have. We can also head over to the More tab on both devices to access the macro cameras. So again, with the macro cameras, you can get very close up here and have things be very crisp and clear. Then heading back, we can go over to portrait mode to get those nice blurred out backgrounds. And then we can flip around to the front facing cameras on these devices and take portrait selfies. Now, if you want to, you can also take a standard selfie, which is nice. And then with the A53 5G, there is a group selfie option, allowing us to crop out a little bit, but it almost looks like the group selfie option is really the regular cropped out amount on the Nord N20 5G. So I guess the standard selfie mode really is just cropping things in. Now, video recording with the Nord N20 5G maxes out at 1080p for both the front and rear cameras. And with the Galaxy A53 5G, this phone has 4K video recording for the front and rear cameras. So if you want 4K video, you're not getting it at all with the Nord N20 5G, whereas you are getting it with the Galaxy A53 5G. Now, as far as RAM and processors go, there are quite a few differences and similarities. So at least in the US, you're going to be getting 6 gigabytes of RAM with either of these two devices, whereas I know that there also is an 8 gigabyte of RAM option for the A53 5G available as well. It just depends on what region you're in. So with the Nord N20 5G, we have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 695 5G compared to the Samsung Exynos 1280. Now, both processors, hence the names of these phones, do give us 5G connectivity, which is great, but we do have mid-range processors from Qualcomm versus Samsung here. Now, I know there are some Samsung A-series phones that have Qualcomm processors as well, but at least in this situation, we are provided with one of Samsung's in-house Exynos processors. Now, I did run Geekbench 5 benchmark tests with both of these devices, and here are the scores that I got from those tests. So you can see here with the OnePlus Nord N20 5G, I got a single core score of 679 compared to a single core score of 742 with the Galaxy A53 5G. And then the multi-core scores are pretty similar, in fact a little bit higher here with the Nord N20 5G at 1966 compared to 1910 with the Samsung. So in general, these scores are pretty close. They are of course different, but at the same time you can see in the multi-core score, the OnePlus actually does better. So in general, it does seem like the A53 5G is the faster phone of the two. Of course, this phone does have to power a full 120Hz refresh rate display, so I give Samsung credit for that, that's for sure. So definitely expect to get mid-range performance with both of these phones. So if you do a lot of high-performance gaming or video editing, for example, on your devices, then you probably will run into some slowdowns. But if you're just looking for a phone to do the more basic tasks, such as phone calls, text messages, some social media usage, also web browsing and email, then I think both of these phones will still get the job done. Now, the battery capacities of these two phones are a little bit different. So with the Nord N20 5G, we have a 4,500 mAh internal battery compared to a larger 5,000 mAh internal battery with the Galaxy A53 5G. Now with the OnePlus, we do have 33 watt fast charging, which is awesome. And with this phone, you do get a 33 watt fast charger included, which overall is a great value. And with the A53 5G, fast charging does max out at 25 watts, and there is no charger included in the box. So I definitely applaud Samsung for giving us a larger battery here, but at the same time, I appreciate how quickly you can recharge the Nord N20 5G. So in that sense, I would say it's pretty much a tie with these two phones. Now when it comes to software, Samsung is definitely the better choice of the two for multiple reasons. The first thing is that the Nord N20 5G is still stuck on Android 11. Now this phone recently launched, and Android 12 has been out for quite a while at this point. So it's pretty strange and disappointing that this phone didn't come with Android 12 out of the box. Now unfortunately, OnePlus is only providing the Nord N20 5G with one major Android software update. So what that means is that this phone will get Android 12 eventually, but that will be the last major update that this phone gets at all. Now they will at least provide it with some security patches, so you'll get that, but you're not going to get Android 13, 14, or any Android versions beyond that. Now Samsung, on the other hand, is taking a little bit of a different approach. Not only did this phone come out with Android 12 out of the box, but they're also pledging to give this phone 4 major Android software updates. So you'll be getting Android 13, 14, 15, and 16. So when it comes to software support, and especially software support over a long period of time, Samsung is giving us much more here compared to OnePlus. So that software update policy is definitely very disappointing for OnePlus, but I at least applaud Samsung for taking the lead when it comes to Android software updates, so that hopefully the competition will eventually catch up. Now, both of these devices do feature NFC, so if you do like to make mobile contactless payments using tap and pay, then you can do that with either of these two phones, which is definitely a really good thing. But now that we've gone over a variety of the different features with these two phones and specifications, let's now take a closer look at the hardware. Now, I already talked quite a bit about the front panels in both phones. Of course, we do have a slightly thicker bezel with the Nord N20 5G compared to the Galaxy A53 5G, but in general, these phones have relatively similar designs, at least for the front panels. Now, these phones are both made completely out of plastic, besides the displays, which are glass. Now, taking a look at the left side of both devices, with the OnePlus Nord N20 5G, we have the slot for the microSD card and SIM card, volume up and volume down. And then on the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, we have nothing. Then on the right sides of both phones, on the OnePlus, we just have the power button. And then on the Samsung, we have volume up, volume down, and the power button. Then up top here in both phones, we have the noise-canceling microphones. And then, taking a look at the bottom of the two phones, with the OnePlus, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and the speaker. Whereas, with the Galaxy A53 5G, we have the slot for the microSD card and SIM card, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and the speaker. So unfortunately with this device, there is no 3.5mm headphone jack. So if you do like to use traditional wired headphones, then the Nord N20 5G probably will be the better choice of the two for you. Of course, you can always pair up your headphones with an adapter to plug into the USB-C port, but it's really not the same thing as having a dedicated headphone jack. And then taking a look at the backsides of both devices, I appreciate that both phones have kind of this matte finish. It's kind of a wavy look to it, which I think looks very nice. I also appreciate that these materials don't really pick up any fingerprints, so in general, both phones look really good. We also have some differences when it comes to the designs of the camera modules. It really comes down to personal preference, but in general, I prefer that we're getting more camera features from the Samsung device out of the two. And then you can see that we have the logos for the two brands, and that's pretty much it. So I think both companies did a great job of making these phones look a lot more premium than maybe they are, and especially with just having plastic to work with as the materials, these phones both still look very premium and decently high-end. So in general, I do think the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is the better choice of the two, and especially when it comes to long-term software support. There's really no competition between these two devices. That being said though, it really comes down to what deals your carrier is going to be offering. So for example, typically with OnePlus devices through T-Mobile and Metro, they offer really great promotions on these phones. Oftentimes, you can even get them for free if you're switching in from another carrier. And the carriers also tend to offer really great deals for Samsung devices as well, but oftentimes it's not quite as good as what you're getting from OnePlus devices. So I guess my general point with that is that the A53 5G is definitely the better choice of the two, but at the same time, if you can get the Nord N20 5G for a fraction of the price, or at least significantly less, then this phone is still a very worthy and decent choice. So I guess it really just comes down to what deals your carrier is offering for which of these two phones you should go for, but assuming that they're the same exact price, then I would definitely go for the A53 5G instead. But I do know that in general, the Nord N20 5G is a less expensive device. The MSRP of the phone is lower, so I definitely am not surprised that we're not getting nearly as much here from this phone, but again, it just depends on what deals your carrier is offering. But most importantly, I'm really curious to know what you think. Which of these two phones do you prefer? And if you own one of these already, do you like it or not? Definitely curious to know, but this is Kevin here. This is the OnePlus Nord N20 5G versus the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, and I will see you in the next video. Take care and have a great rest of your day.